Here we go. Chapter 23. With her back crammed up against the rear wall of the den and her knees pulled up to her chest, Serafina stared at the mountain lion in amazement. Her heart pounded. Her body was folded up so tightly that she could only take short, shallow breaths. The lioness gazed at her with the most mesmerizing amber gold eyes she had ever seen. How was it possible that they looked just like hers? Images and ideas flashed through her mind in a swirling confusion, but none of it made sense. The lioness took another step toward her. Serafina remained perfectly still, trying to breathe as steadily as she could. She made no sudden movements. She saw an intelligence and awareness in the lioness's eyes. They were filled with a gentleness and understanding far beyond that of a wild animal. She knew she could not speak to the lioness in words, but she yearned to. The lioness pushed her nose against Serafina's shoulder and smelled her. The lioness's breath was loud in her ears, her lungs sounding like a bellows, the air rushing in and out. The moisture around the lioness's partially open mouth glistened, and her teeth shone. Her deep scent was both foreign and familiar to Serafina. She'd never smelled a lion in her life, but it smelled exactly the way she expected it would. I'm going to stop right there just for a minute and show you guys what's going on here with my dog. Okay? See if I can... He is the one huffing and puffing and making all this noise. It's because he's tired. We did some fetching earlier today. All right. Sorry about that, guys. Back to the book. Well, it's still on page 246. As she looked at the lioness, she wished more than anything in the world that she could somehow communicate with her. She felt a deep longing to know what she was thinking and feeling in that moment. Serafina exhaled gently and then took in a breath and held it as she slowly raised her trembling hand and touched the side of the lioness's head. She caressed the lioness's fur. The lioness stared at her. Her eyes locked on her, but the lioness did not move. She did not growl or bite, and Serafina began to breathe again. She stroked the side of the lioness's head and then down her neck. The lioness rubbed her shoulder against Serafina's body, and Serafina felt the power and weight of the animal against her. So much weight that it prevented her from breathing for several seconds, and she almost panicked. But then the lioness moved again, and she could breathe once more. When Serafina relaxed her folded knees, the lioness put her head against Serafina's chest. Serafina touched the back of her neck and her ears. Then the lioness slowly leaned down and lay down beside her with her cubs around her and swished her long tail. Serafina held the fuzzy little mewing cubs in her arms and hugged them. She felt her chest swelling and her limbs tingling. She was filled with pride and happiness. The little lions were welcoming her. They loved her. And for a moment, she was swept up with the feeling that she had finally come home. She thought about how she was different from other people. The seeing in the dark, the moving quietly, the hunting at night. She looked at the palm of her hand and opened her fingers and then examined her fingertips one by one. Were they fingernails or were they claws? What was her connection to the lioness? Why did she feel like she belonged here? But the more she thought about it, the more ludicrous it became in her mind. She was a person. She was wearing clothes. She lived in a house full of human beings, and that's where she wanted to be. She had to get back to Braden and her pa and the world she knew, the world she loved. Clenching her teeth and shaking her head, she crawled out of the lioness's den. She stumbled into the open glade and stood beneath the stars in utter confusion. She looked over at where the battle had taken place. The black cloak lay in a heap on the ground. Thorn's bloody body lay beside it. His own clothing had been shredded by the lioness's claws, and blood stained his white shirt. A large open wound bled at his side. His head and face were badly bitten and clawed. She could see his blood glistening, and she knew from watching rats die that glistening blood meant he wasn't completely dead yet. But he soon would be. Sometimes you killed a dying rat, but other times you just let it die. Standing in the angel's glade, she looked up at the sky and the trees and all around her. She had won. She had defeated the man in the black cloak. It felt like every muscle in her body was alive and moving. There was a part of her that felt elated, almost euphoric, like she was floating on air. But another part of her was deeply confused. She had solved one mystery only to be confronted with another. Why did she feel this way inside? And why hadn't the lioness attacked her? What does it all mean? She asked aloud in frustration. She took a few steps, kicking her feet roughly through the snow. She was so sick of not knowing anything and not having the answers. "Tell me what it all means," she shouted to the heavens. "Put me on," came a raspy voice. That's the end of chapter 23. Who is saying "put me on"? Who do you think that is? Oh my God. This book just keeps getting better and better, doesn't it? Something on my screen, sorry. I will start chapter 24 in a little bit. You guys have a fabulous day. Once again, Dorian, I might have said London earlier. I meant to say Dorian. Dorian, I can't wait for you to start your job today at Food Lion. I'm so excited for you. Have the best day ever, and I hope to see you there. Okay? Everybody say big hurrah and big congratulations to Dorian for me. Okay, bye you guys.